In 1959, the streets of Alameda, California rose one of the best teams in NFL or sports history. I was trying to make it a surprise. I wasn't gonna just go out with it and tell you guys in the beginning, but I got a little preview, a little introduction by the professor yesterday, and he gave out my surprise. I don't wear my jersey, you know? Makes me feel better talking about the Raiders. You know, being a part of the Raider Nation is an accomplishment. So I'm not going to give you guys statistics today. We're not going to talk about numbers for all you NFL connoisseurs and you experts on the game. But what we are going to talk about is going to be their contributions and a lot of people who are important in the league as well as other leagues that contribute to the Raider Nation. The Raiders are hard to mimic with their contributions because they are so dedicated to the community. May 22nd, a student from Oakland Tech High School, he had a 5.0 GPA, and as a part of an incentive to that, the Oakland Raiders actually took him on a shopping spree inside of one of their facilities. I know some of you guys, you're a fashion major, right? Or no? Well, somebody was a fashion. Anyway, you guys know how expensive shopping spree would be. And I mean, for me, if I went in a store full of shoes or something like that, I would probably spend thousands of dollars. So I think that was a really good thing that they did. They also have a program called First and Go Kids. What this program did last year, 2013 season, was they took students from various high schools and chaperones, and they let them go watch the whole season games. They had seats designed specifically for them, and they let them go to all the home games that they had. Now you're probably wondering, oh, this is what they do. Other teams may do the same thing, other teams that we know. Well, you're wrong. I'm going to tell you about a local team. I'm not going to compare all the teams. I'm not going to compare the Giants or anyone else, but I will compare the San Diego Chargers. So I did a little research on the San Diego Chargers. I went to GoChargers.com and I actually found that they do some contributions to some things to help their community. One thing that they did was they had fundraisers. They offer fundraisers at their stadium, have different events, and they offer out different prized items such as footballs or helmets, jerseys, things like that. They also go to different schools and allow students to meet them. Now, unlike the Oakland Raiders, the Chargers aren't spending thousands and thousands of dollars on end for all of these different students. Instead, they're just appearing or they're throwing events. So the contribution that the Oakland Raiders are making is a lot greater. All right, enough about the Chargers. I want to start giving you guys a couple more facts. The Oakland Raiders were once coached by one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, Al Davis. If you guys, hopefully you guys know who he is. Most people who know football would know who Al Davis is. Al Davis, he actually led them to their first winning season, January 15th of 1963, where it was a 10-0 season. Granted, other teams have had good seasons. We're going to talk about the Raiders, so he's smiling over there. In 1966, the same guy, Al Davis, who was the head football coach and owner of the Raiders, he became the second commissioner of what was the AFL. I don't even think it exists anymore, the American Football League, now it's NFL. So another great person that I'm sure almost everybody here knows would be John Madden. Okay, John Madden was also one of the coaches of the Raiders, and he's well known throughout sports, not only because of the actual game of football, but because of the virtual game of football. Being on PlayStation, Xbox, different game systems, he brought NFL to a whole different height. So now a lot of people who don't even like the sport, they do like to play a football game. They do like to, interact and play with their friends. So it's not only about going out to a football game. It's not only about NFL team. It's about camaraderie, like what the Raider Nation is all about. Okay. So today I came and I told you guys, let you guys know that a great team isn't always based on their statistics, the statistics that everyone sees out in the open. It's the fans, the alumni, the history of the team, which makes the team, who they are, which brings people to them. So I want to let you guys know, never judge the Oakland Raiders. Please don't judge them based on their record alone, because that will set you up for failure.
All right, Taryn, what did you think?
He had good voice projection. He was easily understandable. He had good eye contact and kept me interested. I understood what he was talking about. He had like some previews and like he tried to put a twist on the transition and say, "I'm just going to tell you this next." And he said a few times, even though he knew what he was talking about. And I guess the only thing that he could improve on was you didn't have that much research. Like, you basically were just saying like how they're just good, but you didn't tell them the bad. Oh, I don't know. I don't really understand football like that though. I didn't know. I'm just saying like I wasn't that persuaded. But
Okay. I think you've got some legitimate points. I thought the delivery things are all fine. You're doing okay, and Bo knows football, right? Is that Jackson's jersey there? Okay, just double checking on that. So that came across well, and you get a little bit of credibility because you're a fan and you're talking about it and it's heartfelt. I do think that you set up at the beginning and said, look, what we want to talk about here is the contributions that the Raiders have made. Not necessarily their records, that's fine, especially the last few years, you got to ignore that sort of thing. But you could be talking about them as if, that they are the most important franchise in the NFL because they do these kinds of things, because they were innovative in this way, because they make this kind of contribution. And despite the fact that they've had a lack of success on the field in the last few years, that does not change the impact that they have had on the game itself and continue to have on the game. And I think that's kind of the way it ought to come out. Instead, it feels a little bit like I'm getting a random history of the Raiders, and you point out a couple of things that are important. I think everybody knows, well, anybody who knows football, like you said, knows Al Davis and how important he was to the NFL when the merger of the NFL and the start of the AFL and all those kinds of things. But of course, that's 50 years ago. What are you doing for me lately? And he's gone. And John Madden hasn't coached in 30 plus years. But his contribution is separate. And by the way, he's not working for the Raiders when he puts his name on all the Madden games, that sort of thing. So the fact that he all of his experience, or most of his experience, comes from the Raiders. I think that's what you need to emphasize more, that's what he brings to the game, and that's how it influences it. Look, the Raiders influence the game by helping build the AFL into a success. They influence the game by having a standard of excellence at one particular point. They influence the game by their business acumen, being able to be financially successful regardless of consistency. And then the argument that you make at the beginning, which I think sounds like it's going to be the big argument, but I think it turns into something that's not quite as strong as it sounds like it's going to be at the beginning, and that is that their contribution to the community and the way they're involved. You do a little bit of contrast with the San Diego Chargers. I don't know that the cost the Chargers nothing to do the fundraisers and that sort of thing. That seems like an awfully big inference to be making there. I don't know how there's got to be some way that you can compare statistically how much money they raised or what kinds of programs, but I think the other way of making that comparison is a little bit more of those examples that you talked about. All right, so the Chargers help local sports teams do fundraisers at their games. That's a good thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the Raiders have a scholarship program for those local kids. The one thing that I thought was interesting was they have a special section cordoned off for kids, to come to the games. What are those? Why those particular kids? Maybe they're the ones in need. Maybe they're the ones who need the most amount of something to look forward to, and that makes a bigger impact on the community than just helping a band raise some money. That's the kind of comparison that I think you need to make, and you've got the right idea there. It just needs to be a little bit more developed. All right, thank you.